I like to learn some kung fu.
Would love to peel this banana.
Yo, this is the Peel This Banana podcast. Shut the fuck up, listen. We're going at it. We're talking about some podcast shit. Listen up, fuckers.
Yeah, welcome. So I was listening to this clip from the Joe Rogan about this North Korean defector.
And Yunmi Park, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Have you seen her?
Yeah. I've seen clips and little videos of her talking. Yeah.
It's
Dude, it's fucking wild. Yes.
There's it somewhere in the beginning of the podcast, she mentions a great point, which is something I think about a lot, or at least I used to think about a lot. But in the podcasts, when she's speaking about it, she said something that I think about a lot, and something that, or at least I used to think about a lot, especially when I was younger and like felt like I was struggling in life, which is the West has no idea, like basically what struggle is, like, or what actual Holocaust would look like, or what real trauma, like in human being,
right?
Like human Geneva Convention worthy items that human tragedies live right here, right now, in 2021. It's like, fuck, you're absolutely right. Like our problems are inconsequential comparatively.
That's what I got from her. I'm like, every person in America needs to listen to this woman talk.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, and another thought that came right from it too was like, oh, this is how people, not like in a negative way, but I'm just going to use the word. Like, this is how people get radicalized. Like, I felt I was being radicalized to like join a cause, to like fight against this thing that she was like,
that she was talking about.
That she was talking about. And I was like,
interesting.
Dude,
we gotta stop this. We gotta go. Yeah, right.
You know, I'm like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, this is unreal. And so I was like, wow, like, okay, I see how you can paint a picture. Not that she was being ill intent or she was like doing anything.
No, it's the power of the story, the narrative. Yeah, just like,
oh wow, I am blown away. And I think a lot of people, some groups, choose to use that power of the story to their own best interest, to push an agenda to push. And it's upsetting, but it's also the power of groups.
It's what humans have been doing since
this is what we do,
story
man.
Maybe existed. Yeah, it's what people do, man. And I don't know if, you know, we say people use these things to push agendas and stuff like that as if they're like, maybe they're aware. And maybe I'm naive to think that I give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they're fully aware. They're just identified with the cause and think it's correct. And they're not aware of when they identify with this as the correct thing, it immediately creates a split. Anything that isn't that is now automatically bad. I don't think they connect these things. They're just like, this is the right path, and they just keep following it down because it's almost like an addiction because you felt it when you listened to her. You could feel the emotions rising. You can feel everything turning into like, it's powerful, man. It grips you somehow. It's about being aware enough. I mean, that speaks to your level of awareness to notice what the fuck is happening to you and go, hold on a minute. Wait a second.
Yeah.
What is this force that's controlling ideas, thoughts, feelings, your experience essentially, to then go, hold on. Is this including everything that it needs to include or not?
Exactly.
Most likely not, but like.
Exactly. And that's exactly what's going through my mind.
Yep. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I watched like a little clip of hers. I think it was actually, she was on the Jordan Peterson podcast. That's where I've seen the majority of her clips.
Yeah, so I heard that she was just on that one, and that was just on Joe Rogan one. Which I'm like only halfway through the Jordan Rogan one, and I'm like, whoa, like I gotta watch the Jordan Peterson one too, because this is just unreal.
Nuts. It's very unreal.
But I mentioned that, but these are the things that I thought about when I was going through some of my struggles. Obviously, not necessarily about North Korea. I wouldn't say I was ignorant to the fact of like, all the travesties, and maybe the West on the whole still is on some level. But when I felt like I was having a tough time in my life, I connected to really the only things that I thought was struggle in our recent history, which is I'm over here struggling, like not sleeping, trying to get through these exams and like failing them and like feeling like a just loser all the time. But I'm like, just just keep pushing through, keep pushing through. Like, I don't have anything to complain about because when our forefathers were like 22, they were watching their friends die in World War II. So I can get through this. Like, that's what I kept telling myself as I was like getting through those struggles. Like, and I guess that's my coping mechanism to say like someone's got it worse, or you know how society is structured today is so much better than how it was.
Right. We're not.
And that's just ultimately, I think, like it was a coping mechanism for me to convince myself to push through the struggle of things.
Yeah, get some more fuel to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of wild that we don't have any context. Like we really have it made kind of here in the West. Like we don't have a lot of context for what it could really look like. And I guess you could go and visit like some of the homeless villages out in like LA or any big cities. Like, and I don't mean just visit the outskirts of it. I mean they're homeless villages of like 30,000 people. Like just walk into the middle of that and see if nothing happens to you. I don't know. I don't know if nothing would, but like probably get a little bit closer to like some real context of what the fuck some shit it looks like in the world, you know?
Yeah, you know what's funny? So up here in Portland, there's plenty of homeless complexes around.
Yeah.
I have not done that, but I've thought about that before. And last weekend, I actually found myself downtown area, and I was just going for a walk, and I was like, feel like walking through the homeless area. So I did.
Yeah.
And
Nice. I did the same thing when I was there.
Yeah, I had an experience. It's so minuscule. I literally spent 30 minutes just like walking through it. And in one conversation, I was near the railroad pass. There was a group of people sitting outside on the stoop, probably like five. They're older people. They're probably 40s, 50s. There's five dudes, homeless, just chilling outside on the stoop. There was a group of five here, and then like a block away, there was like three other people. So two different groups. But I walked by the first group, and one of the homeless people had like a piece of paper or something, and he like whistled at me, and he's like, I can't whistle strongly, but he's just like, he says like, it's like, hey, he like pulled out this piece of paper and like wanted me to take it. And he's like, hey, check this out. And I looked at him as I'm walking. I looked at him and I was like, no, like I just was like, no, get out of here. And then he goes, hey, talking to you, and I kept walking, right? And he's like, hey, get that guy. And then there's people in front of me, and I'm like, and he yells like, oh, we need to listen.
That's like a movie scene. Hey, get that guy, like the exact dialogue line.
Yeah, like I'm not joking, and I'm like, oh shit, it's about to go down right now. Like,
what the hell?
But it's like if I would say I'm relatively confident, but like it's in a street fight. There's no rules. There's nothing going on, right?
And there's multiple people.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is a bad situation right here, right now. And it's like that was one of the times where I was like, all right, I'm scared. Like,
of course,
we're gonna move away from the situation now. I was like, all right.
So what happened?
Nothing happened. Like I just walked confidently away.
What did the three people up there do? They just kind of looked at him like, what the hell? They didn't even probably know the guy.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. But like it's just a small incident, but I'm like, wow, that could have gone a different way. And why did it start? Because I just walked away from a homeless dude trying to give me a piece of paper or whatever. I don't even know what it said. Don't know what it was.
What did the people around him do?
They were also just sitting like on a stoop. Like I'm not gonna say like they were like high or drunk, but like that was the like vibe per se. They were just like being lazy homeless people, just kind of just like just lazing around, stooping around. And but it was just experience, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, totally.
I should carry my knife more often. That was like my first thought.
No, for sure, like protection. Yeah, the closer humans get to like a survival level, shit just there's not room or space within their psyche to like compassion, kindness, even like actually in a weird way, social calibration might go up, but it's in more like survival mode type tactics, you know what I mean? So his acuity of like what he needs to do in order to survive might go up, but like he's not going to be socially adept at like making friends maybe, per se, or like shit
For
like
sure,
that.
yeah.
Like it's just weird what happens to the human system at different levels of I don't know, survival abundance or whatever. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, essentially. You know, when
Yeah.
that first rung is like not stable, like it's fucking crazy.
It's the Wild West. It's worse than the Wild West. There's literally
Worse
no
than
rule.
that,
We're
right?
animals. Like we're
Hmm.
just animalistic. Nature just comes out. And we will do
Yeah,
whatever it takes. We're just primates. It's like it's
right.
wild. Like it's nuts.
Wild, yeah, wild's the word.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I thought about that too. I can listen to the conversation with the North Korean lady. Like, oh, it's just Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like in action. Like when you
Hmm.
can't get your basic needs met, aka there's literally people dying from starvation, and that's the main cause of death. Everything, it's all perspective, and nothing is like immoral, and like nothing like
Exactly.
there's no sense to anything.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Yeah,
is
civilization
yeah,
goes, yeah, collapses totally.
yeah. So that's where my head was at this morning, and I was listening to that.
Dude, yeah, it's very sombering because like that's what happened to me when I watched even just the little, 5 minute, 6 minute videos of
Mhm.
Yeonmi Park's interview there. Yeah, it is very sombering. You're like, and it's also the things that she says. I can't remember it specifically, but the way she says it and just what she says, you're like, you relate it to your experience here, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, just
Yeah,
worlds apart, no context.
totally. It's different universe. Like it's an alien planet.
Yep.
Like what they are going through and like how they live their lives. Like there's no comprehension.
Yeah, and you might say like, all right, people in North Korea, why don't they just rise up and rebel? Like,
Oh,
what's
there's no means for
you
them. Yeah.
can't even there's no context. So like you could think that like, and I had that thought. I'm like, why? But I'm like, there's no context. I can't even imagine that question doesn't even hold any weight because it's like the weight of what they're going through will cause you to think and feel different things and have a totally different experience that would have you make different decisions. I couldn't even begin if like, oh, if I was one of those people, yeah, I probably wouldn't rebel either. I'd be one of the people starving to death. I would have starved to death. Like if I was replaced me exactly, I would have. I don't have the body type. Me as a child would have been malnourished already. Like it just I would have fucking died probably. So it's fucking crazy to think of.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
But also like, yeah, it's just I guess sad. It's just is the word to describe it where because at the end part of it's like this is the story of what's happened. This is her like how she escaped. This is what's going on. But then at some points I'm like, what can we do? And that's because it comes from conversation of like basically nothing.
Nothing.
Um,
Yep.
and well, okay, that's not true. The only way to like get things solved, I would say, is that you have to get political. You have to convince politicians to do it, or
Mhm.
you have to convince corporations to do it.
To fund money into it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what I mean by
Or
me,
form your own guerrilla team
well,
and
here's
like
here's my
do
thought.
covert operations. That's a
Yeah,
possibility too. That you'd probably not work out. You'd probably die. But
yeah. Uh,
you could do it. You could fucking do it. We could.
but here's the thought on that. At least for me, this is what I was thinking when she said it. She's like, well, why? How is this country and like civilization per se, if you want to call it that, existing? Well, it's because it's being supported by its neighboring countries. What China is doing is supporting uh, this whole thing to exist by doing human trafficking, by buying the drugs, by buying whatever it is.
Yep.
And why? Okay, well, why is China interested in doing that? Because they can meet their own desires. They don't have many women in their culture, so like that's a
Yep.
thing. And then at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. And in the West, that's the rule of the game. That's what power is in the West. You got money. That's how you buy people. Not like in the same
Yeah.
way you buy people in North Korea, but like you buy lobbyists and politicians. So like big corporations, Disney, for example, Amazon, we all manufacturing's in China because it's cheap.
Hmm.
So really the only way, in my view, when she said like there's not much you can do because she's telling the stories, like you would have to convince corporations to basically never do business with China. That'd be the only way as an embargo due to them supporting this. And
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen. Yeah,
So,
it's a very complicated thing. That whole situation, North Korea it's unbelievably complicated.
yeah,
I guess kind of like everything, really. Everything's multifaceted and not
for sure, for sure.
one
It's
thing.
it's both the beauty and the curse.
Exactly.
Things
Yeah.
are not black and white.
Nope. Yeah, and I can't even pretend that I'd know remotely what a solution would be.
Oh yeah, and that's just one of my first thoughts that popped in my head of like, oh
Yeah,
well, the West would have to literally
you would
stop.
need, yeah, you would need a tremendous amount of energy to to change directions, essentially,
Yeah,
and go a different route.
but then I think like too, like if the West decided to embargo China off of this, that's World War III. Like
Yeah,
I
well, I
think
mean,
so.
we already have trade issues with China
I
anyway
know.
because just the reserve currency. So, like, America's dollar is in question, I would say, in terms of what direction it's going to go. But who's the next one? Well, the Chinese yen would be the next currency that would flip that game and be the reserve currency. And whoever holds the power of the reserve currencies, they're the most powerful nation in the world. And it's us and China. And it's like, right? So, I mean, you embargo China, maybe they do some other play and it just, yeah, antagonizes each other.
Yeah,
And
it's the
that game
geopolitical
is already
spectrum.
being played. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that game is already being played at such a crazy freaking level. I mean, yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's nuts. I don't even know. That's my solution to this is like, yo, wow, I really need to learn how to garden and grow food. I'm not joking, man. I've been thinking about like, yo, I gotta figure out how to fucking grow some food. Maybe I'll buy some land and I'll just like I'll slowly build a house, like a mini home out of like a shipping container, like figure out how to build a well, like self-sustaining shit, I think is gonna become I already see it. I don't know if you get ads for it. I get ads for it on Facebook and Instagram because I think I look it up all the time. But I like get like this like grow shit in your backyard, create a self-sustaining wall of whatever. Like I don't know, shit like that I get all the time because I think I look at it.
oh
I think
well,
about it often.
I don't get ads, but now I will because now I said it and my phone listened to me.
Now,
And
yeah, exactly. Your phone listen to it, your computer's listening to it,
yep,
you're gonna get it.
yeah,
Yeah, I listen to it. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm
yeah.
gonna have
I
to
know a
learn
lot
this
of
skill
people who
set.
do that are really into it because basically the reasons you're kind of outlining, which is like the world's a big scary place, like it really is, and
Mhm.
I want to be able to support myself, be self-sufficient.
Yeah, right.
And I
I
think
want to
the root
be
of it has many different reasons. Like some people like just don't like the government. Some people just like I want to be able to be off grid. Uh, but at the end of the day, I think it's a good idea. It's not feasible for the masses because now you can't have everybody do it.
well,
300.
it would be, but you'd have to give up a lot. Oh, your freaking 4,000 square foot house that you bought? No, sorry, you don't get that anymore. Or
Right.
like, you would have to give up a lot. Or your fucking stupid Lexus that costs $75,000. I don't know if Lexus is probably cheaper than that, but whatever it is,
I mean,
you have
Lexus
to,
could be 65.
it could be, I think they have some, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you'd have to readjust what you value and you'd have to switch a lot of different material things and energy around. You'd have to revamp a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I
But
think
are
most
people going to make that value switch? Probably not.
yeah, we
Probably
all
not.
have our different what's important to us.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't
Especially
judge what you value as importance, but you need to understand the consequences to those values. You can't just be like, I value this and I should get everything too. Like, no,
yeah.
there's consequences to what you value.
Oh yeah. That's something I feel like I'm always reminded of. It's like I call it like there's no free lunch.
Yeah.
You can't take, as they say, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You
Right.
gotta take you do an action, it has a reaction.
That's exactly like every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And this goes to every level of interaction that you can conceive of, even within human
Everything.
interactions. Like it's literal physics, and it's not just metal ball hit metal ball. That's what happens. It goes,
Yeah.
no, even when you say shit and the tonality of your voice and the vibration and the energy that goes with, there is consequences and actions and reactions to those
Mhm.
interactions that happen.
Mhm.
It's kind of beautiful in my mind, from a
Yeah.
physics
It's
perspective.
like we're social creatures, right? And we have to live in this world together. Like we have to. working with togetherness is fundamental to how we have come this far as human beings.
Yeah.
So what else has been going on? What's Texas like?
I mean, it's pretty cool actually. The summer so far has been so springtime was crazy thunderstorms, just raining and thunderstorms all the time. This
Hmm.
summer though has been pretty good. I like the weather. Um, I usually never talk about the weather, but it's been something that I've noticed has affected me lately. Like I go outside and I breathe and I'm like, oh man, it's pretty clear air. This is pretty good. So I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed
Hmm.
that, and that's made me feel a little bit better. So people who don't know, moved out to Dallas, Texas, um, for an opportunity that I failed to get. But that's a different story. But I haven't like totally kind of know where I fit in this place or even have an opinion about it, really. I've kind of just narrowed down and focused on doing my eBay stuff. But in terms of Dallas, Texas being great for thrifting, if you're a reseller, if you do any reselling, dude, this area is a 10 out of 10. It's a 20 out of 10. I mean, you could go 24/7 and never run out of shit to like find, flip, and resell. It's fucking nuts here with that stuff. The deals are great, the prices are good. It's probably the number one area in the nation, I would say, for this type of
Wow.
work. Yeah, maybe Florida would approach it, but that'd be hard. I'd have to say this is definitely up there. It'd have to be top. I can't even think of all the different measuring metrics that I think of and do. Like this gotta be number one. It's up there. It's top three for sure. So in that case, it's awesome because you can create a full-fledged business here for sure with reselling.
Wow. Well, that's good, man. I'm
That's
really happy that's been working out for you, because something I really enjoy about you is that you just do things. Like you, for better or worse, like you put yourself in situations, you're like, I'm gonna make this work. And not many people have the capacity or interest to do that. I feel like maybe it's my biasy, but especially I run into a lot of young people and it's like, it's just happy chilling. There's nothing wrong with chilling. Like do your thing.
yeah,
But when you find somebody or when I see somebody else who's actually putting the work out there, I appreciate it. Like I'm
yeah. That's probably why you and I get along because we like
yeah.
follow that a little on the same line there. Yeah, I didn't used to be like that though. That's a shift from my quarter life crisis in 25. All of it's just momentum from like
Hmm,
those changes happening from back then.
hmm.
Um, I hope I don't go back.
What were some of those changes?
How do I word it? Putting myself in, turning this off. I wouldn't even say this because that's a function of my nervous system being highly activated and highly anxious. Having an experience where where I actually got context around what was happening to me. Oh, I do suffer from high levels of anxiety. Okay, number one, like getting context of that's what's happening, motherfucker. You have high levels of anxiety, right? And if I'm not aware of that and I'm operating thinking it's just normal levels, and my level of chill, so to speak, is just, or I'm not putting myself in tough situations, or I'm not expanding myself, or uh challenging myself in different areas. Not saying you always have to, but the level at which I was operating was not, the results would have always been mediocre, let's say. I would have
Hmm,
never been rich, say. Financial situation would have never changed because the patterns were always just repeating. So I was in how I was operating age 25, 18 to 25, I'd say, consistent pattern. Like how my psyche was, my psychic structure, physiological structure, those patterns would have just repeated, would have gotten the same results, i.e., probably struggling with income all the time, paycheck to paycheck kind of rat race type of thing, anxious all the time. So getting really the breakup with Tui kind of caused the punch. Also, I got fired from my job at that time. Just a lot of stuff kind of went down. I think I explained this in a podcast. I think it was with the Maya podcast. So all that coming together, crash, poof, implode your life. Thank God it happened because now I get context in a world outside of what I was living. Oh, okay. That's what gave me the chance to like, okay, I don't know how to date anyone. I just broke up. If I want to have another relationship at some point in my life, oh, I have to learn these skills. Okay, boom. Now I got to start going out, talking to people, learning that stuff, facing the immense levels of anxiety and fear that comes with that, of even just talking to people out of nowhere. So boom, one there. And then two, like, oh shit, I got fired from my job. How do I make money? I got to get another job. So so it's just exposure therapy essentially. Consistently keep putting myself into situations and just do it and do it. And one thing that I think I've always kind of had, but the level that I do it at now is it's like 100 to 1. I don't give a shit about what I'm thinking or feeling. It's like I throw myself in the trash can. Sean, whatever you're thinking, like, stop. And it's not that to like deny my own experience and to like beat myself into the ground and really what's the word, shame myself or judge myself harshly or abandon myself. I'm not doing those things, but I'm not giving credit to the thoughts, and I'm not giving weight to these illusory emotions and thoughts and feelings that are so transitory that I can't identify. Like, that's not me. They're there and then they're gone the next. I'm changing my mind every 2 seconds. Stop identifying with them, thinking that that's you, because then you're in the stuck rat race. Like, throw it out the window and just like catapult yourself into the situation and figure it out, essentially. And that's what it is. It's more an attempt to like shut all this crazy shit off that's going on and just get a real experience to gain more and more context around, oh, I'm safe. I'm safe. Safety is probably my nervous system's biggest need. I wouldn't say it is consciously as like me, Sean, who's aware of my thoughts, but my subconscious, safety is probably the number one thing that it's concerned about. And so knowing that about my subconscious, okay, well, let me put myself in situations that build my ability to meet tension, conflict, and seemingly unsafe things. If I can build that skill, then everything starts to feel safer because it knows it has the competency to deal with what's in front of me. So that's why I try to just shut off and launch myself in to get myself that stuff.
You know what it reminds me, man?
What?
I had a similar. No. What it reminds me of is that you said to yourself, "Yo, I'm a level 2 pleb. How do I get to level 52? Well, I gotta grind. How do I grind?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I gotta
That's
get,
exactly.
and I got to learn these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a lot for you, like, I guess in this case, the breakup with Tui and the loss of a job to be like, oh, because maybe before that, maybe I'm just hypothetically, maybe before that you thought you were like, oh, I'm level, 15, I'm cruising.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Oh,
We
I'm
got
level 20. I'm walking around like, oh, I know what
But
I'm
then
doing.
it's like you get knocked down a peg, or maybe not like you get knocked down, but like actually instead of being the fish in a pond, you see more of the ocean. You're just like, wait a minute, I'm actually level 2.
I'm actually yeah, I'm like, I'm just, oh
And
fuck,
it's
I
like,
don't,
okay,
yeah.
so you chose, which I applaud, which is why I said it before, is like you chose to level up,
Yeah.
and try to get better. And the only way to do that is you got to go out there and try. You can't just think about it. You have to put yourself out there and
Yeah.
fail a lot.
Fail a lot all the time.
Learn from all of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
And that's why you'll hear me harp on physical experience. Like for me, Sean, I don't really learn very well anymore reading or it's been kind of weird. Like I can't really learn reading, writing, or any of the kind of traditional modes of learning. It has to be visceral. Like it has to hit my nervous system in order for anything to sink in anymore. Probably because I've thrown everything else out the window, but like I have to do it now. It's the only way it'll get in there. It has to be visceral for me.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I made the leveling game analogy because we're both gamers, how we originally met.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I remember the first time I ever saw a girl, I was like, that I liked. I was in 6th grade, and I was like, whoa, she's so cool. I like her. And my first thought, this is what, we're in the 90s. I'm going to age myself, somewhere in the 90s. And The first thing I thought about after, okay, this is a lie. The second thing I thought about after was like, oh, I like that girl. Like, she's cute. You're a teenager, whatever. My second thought was like, oh, I'm not strong enough to like be with that person. I need to level up. How would I get more experience? I gotta talk to other girls. I gotta like, like I gotta level up in that way too.
Yeah, right.
But it's weird thinking about it now to look back, and it's not like I thought like other women were less than. I just thought that like, oh, she's like up here, and I don't have the experience to be there yet as a young.
Was she older than you, or were you just putting her on a pedestal? Like,
same grade.
Oh, okay.
But it was just like what I was thinking at the time, and why I thought that is because I was playing games like Pokemon or something at the time, and it's like, oh, well, like of course you can't, if you don't have the right badges, you can't control the monster that's too high level.
Yeah.
So like that was my thought process as an early teenager. And on one side, I would still say it makes sense, but obviously how you go about that is up for debate. How you would level up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
So what'd you do as a sixth grader?
Good question. So figured out the target per se, right? Like, okay, this is the Pokemon I want to capture.
Yeah, those are the titties I want. Yeah.
And what happened was I was like, okay, so how do I get better at talking to girls or talking to like dates? So I started dating, like casual dating, other women. They're little girls because I'm a teenager.
Like, were you sixth grade? Was it sixth grade?
Sixth grade, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you're like 11 or 12, maybe something like that.
The thing was, so an example, I lost my virginity that year. Not because I was like, I mean, before, I guess, teenageness of like, yeah, I want to have sex, like I want to learn these things. You go through sex ed and whatever, you want to experience it. You're like, oh, it sounds cool. Everybody's doing it. It's a fucking lie. Like no one's doing that shit as a teenager.
Yeah, right.
But like part of the reason why I did that is because I was like, this is experience for me to get with the person I want.
To get to level up.
So that was like one example. It was, but I lost my virginity. So it was, for me, it wasn't, I had a great time with it. Like I didn't feel like I was like pressured. Like I felt confident. I knew what I was doing, relatively speaking, as much as a young teenager would.
For dating or the experience of?
The actual experience of sex. Like
really interesting, because I remember you telling me the story and it was like a little traumatizing in some way, no? Or is that a different experience?
No, the first time I had it, no, it wasn't traumatizing, I would say.
Okay, it must have been a different one.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it up if you're uncomfortable with it, but I thought it had to do with your dad and something else.
It wasn't my dad's apartment. It was a sleepover with some of my friends, or some of my sister's friends at the time. And one of them was like, I forget how it got brought up, but we started playing like spin the bottle, things like that. And then it's like, oh, we should just have sex. And I actually, and then that's basically what happened.
Wow.
But I didn't like really care about this person, right? Like it was just some lady I met that night, but I knew like you're playing these games, you're like learning what it means to be a human being, like a teenager, you're just experimenting per se. But I knew it was like, oh, this is what I need to like get the person I like. So that was like one thing. And then at school.
So wait, did you just say it? You're like, hey, let's do it, or did she say it?
Actually, she said it. And I was like, yep, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually didn't even initiate it. She initiated it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Spin the bottle lottery there. You won.
I guess so. Yeah. She was also my age too, so it's not like it was.
Oh,
like,
she was? I thought she was way older.
So. No. She was around my age too.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I don't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, not saying that it was like any less weird to think about it, but it's not like I had a good experience.
Okay.
That's all I have to say. But that was one example of like things I knew I had to level up. Other things, I was like, okay, how do I get better at kissing? So I would like go around the school and like think about ways like, how do I get better interacting? I remember as a prime example, sit in the classroom, like we're a couple months in the class, whatever. There was a new girl that just transferred. And I remember I was like, oh, I'm going to switch seats to sit next to her and immediately make friends with her strategically because I want to get better. And I thought it was a perfect situation for me to say like, oh, I can like be anybody I want. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know that I'm like unpopular
This is
dweeb.
fucking like 12-year-old kid thinking this stuff is just funny to me.
Yeah, dude, I was thinking this because I mean, it's not like I was a popular person. I was not.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe probably everybody says that about themselves. Like I had friends, like I had like 3 friends who were like core group,
Yeah.
but we were not considered the popular ones for sure.
Mm-hmm. So you're
But
switching seats.
yeah, so I switched seats, sat next to her on purpose, and then it was like, "Hey, oh, you're new. Oh, like my name's Aaron," and I just started a conversation, and it was like such a funny thing to think about now. When I say it out loud, I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I was a person on a mission. Like my goal was to get better
You're
to talking
very
to girls, with the ultimate goal of getting to this one person I really wanted.
so funny.
And I did so many like weird little things to like get there.
Like what?
So learning how to kiss, learning how to talk to girls, the sex
Did you kiss
thing.
the transfer student?
Eventually, no, I didn't. We did become
Okay.
decent friends, but I never kissed her. No.
Gotcha. But it's just fun. So everything you're doing is like, okay, I gotta get this skill. I gotta get this skill.
Yeah.
This skill to
So
this
what
skill.
was
It's
the
gonna
other
help
thing I
me.
did as a young teenager? I started a street race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had an inherent interest in cars,
Yeah.
but it just exploded once I got more into it. But I was like, oh, men know how to drive cars. I should learn how to do this.
They get
That's what
girls.
I
Yeah.
find attractive, right? Like all these little things, like
Yeah.
added up to like the attempts to even get to this person.
So what happened to that person?
So that's what I was going to mention next. Eventually, I did get with this person.
Mm.
However, by the time I got to her, it's like this weird, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's
Serendipity, but in the other direction.
I'm gonna try. There's not a word for it. I'm just gonna try to explain the situation. So I was getting all this experience and getting good, like, or at least I felt I was getting good, and like talking to girls, like becoming more social and like gaining experience at it, with the goal of getting to this one person.
Yeah.
So the base situation, how it all started with this person in question, is that at the time we had these like little planners. Did you have these in middle school? Yeah, you were supposed to like write your homework in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for us, it was terrible because they expected our parents, they expect us to show
to sign off on it.
Sign off on it.
Yeah. Wow.
So
forget about that. Yep.
Yep. And we had those. And one time, the girl that I really was looking for or trying to be with asked me to borrow mine because she was absent the previous day. And she was like, "Hey, do you have like the homework or whatever it was, or what we studied the next day?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Fine on paper. The problem was all of this plan was written in that book.
That's fucking hilarious. You wrote the plan down in the book.
The plan down in the book, basically saying like, "Oh, this is like the person I want. This is the person I like," and then like, I was exposed. So I let her borrow the book. She saw it.
So you didn't think that everything was in the book. You're just like, "Oh yeah, here you go." And then you're
like, I subconsciously knew, but I couldn't say no. Like she asked me for my book. What am I gonna say? Like, no, you can't have it. As a teenager, like,
with the girl that you want to get, you're probably not gonna get it.
Yeah. So
here you go.
No, I gotta like here. Thinking my best case thought was that she's just gonna go to the page that she needed to and then give it back.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what happened. She like browsed through, eventually saw the plan or saw that I really liked her, and then she wrote a note in the book.
What did the plan say? Like, what did you write?
I don't exactly remember, but basically it was like, "Oh, I really like this person. Like, I want to get with this person."
That's what it said.
Like, it was something like this. I
like da 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 da.
Yeah, like I like this person. I forget exactly what it said, but I like this person for sure was in it. And then like, how would I get with this person? Like that was
I gotta kiss Susie in order to get with it.
Yeah, no, I said something like I gotta get better. I have to gain more experience to like get with this person. Like that was based on the high level. That's what was written down. And there's a couple more things, whatever. Yeah. But so she saw that, and then this is the days before cell phone stuff, right? So like the only thing you could do was like note pass.
Yeah, note pass. Yep.
So she saw that and then handed my book back to me with a note inside of it. That said, "Hey, I like you too." And I was like, oh, it's it. Game's over. Life's over, guys. Like, mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Time to take your dick out. Let's do it.
Yeah. But there's the great how I got what I wanted. I got what I wanted, right?
Okay.
But
Mission
I gained
complete.
all these skill sets to like get to that point. And by the time I got to the point where I could get what I wanted, I was a cocky little asshole. Because I'm like, I already got her. I can get others too.
Interesting.
So prime example that happened here was that she was actually a cheerleader. And so we both admitted we liked each other, right? But like, what do you do as like teenagers or like middle schoolers? You're just kind of like holding hands, like, you know, nothing.
Sit with each other at lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have sex or anything like that. But she was a cheerleader. And one time, I would go to her cheer practices, sort of, because they were adjacent. I was in this after-school program called Safe Key, where you go if your parents can't pick you up or can't get home at 3 whenever school was over.
Yep.
So I stood there at like 5 or 6 whenever my parents got off work. But that was also the same building where the cheerleaders would practice. Not all the time, but like maybe twice a month. So I would like watch her practice and like, you know, we'd talk or whatever. One time, there was new lady approaching. The new rare Pokemon that I was like, ooh, I want that one.
Tiny.
And my interest shifted. And now that I have this skill set that I felt like none of the people had, I was like, I can get her.
So how old are you at this point?
12 years old.
12, 13? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what the hell's going through your mind? You're like, oh yeah, I have these skills. So like, what's the motive being for this 12-year-old kid who like, I met, like, you think you have a leather jacket on, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm a fucking shit, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's going on feeling-wise, sensory-wise?
I didn't have those items, but it wasn't leather jacket. It was like, yo, I got the Skechers, I got the Heelys, the light ups, you got the slap wristbands. Like, I didn't have any of those things, but the confidence was there. And I think that's what I realized in this endeavor was like, man, I can tell any story I want. But as long as you come out confidently, doesn't matter what clothes you wear, doesn't matter how you say things. The only thing that makes you popular is being confident. That's what I learned is like through this experience. Because another thing I did, I forgot to mention this one too, was like I went for like the class president that year.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm just gonna do things to try to get my face more in the limelight somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
And I literally had like no campaigning, and I still got like second place. I didn't win, but like it was funny because people came up to me. They're like, "Oh, you were going for that? I would have voted for you instead if I would have known." I'm like, maybe I'm more powerful than I think.
Yeah, right. Should have been campaigning out there.
Should have, like, and that's where I'm
like
building up more confidence, like for myself, I guess you could say. And it just became like more and more to the point I got cocky. So by the time I got to the person I wanted, I was already a cocky little kid.
Okay.
So much so that I was thinking when I was already talking to this girl or dating this person, if you want to call it that, as a teenager, of how to get the next one.
Yeah.
So 2 examples that happened. Number one, in one of the cheerleader practices I was watching her in, there was another lady who was like, yeah, maybe that one's better. And she was doing a move, and she got thrown up in there, and she was like, "Ooh!" And then she like looked at me like for excitement and ecstaticism, and I looked at her, and I was like, "You're nothing." And I literally like just gave her like the "you're nothing" kind of like motion, and like walked away. And that was weird, like for me to even think to do, but I did that. So that was a thing, and these are all like tiny little middle school incidences, right? Like I'm not like doing something crazy, but like to a middle schooler when like your social circle is very small and like you're learning.
No, that's the world. That's the world you're living in.
That's the world.
Big deal.
Like she broke down from that little thing, right? And it's like, whoa, what was that about? Like, what were you doing? Were you looking at the other girl? Like, I'm like,
wait.
Whatever.
Oh, so your girlfriend at the time is the one that was, and you like looked away.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And then, okay. Yeah. What the heck was that about? Okay. And then what happened?
So that the second incident, we had a pep rally. Pep rally.
Pep rally.
Yeah.
Pep rally.
So the entire middle school gathered up in the gymnasium, and then they showcased the choir. I was actually in the choir, so I sang something. I don't remember. The basketball potatoes came out. They did shots and baskets real quick, and then the cheerleaders came out. And there was probably, we had a really big middle school. It's probably like 500 kids, 800 kids. And we filled up the gymnasium. Cheerleaders come out. They like do a routine, and so they lift up one of the cheerleaders, and the lady who was interested in, she was like, I don't recall if she was the captain or not, but she was one of the headliners because she got lifted. She was the one that got lifted up all the time.
Yeah, the flyer.
She could like do a flip and stuff, right?
Yep.
So I remember I started the chant per se, or I started not a chant. I started the boos. So she gets lifted up, and I'm just like, boo. and then I have like my 3 core friends. They booed too, like boo. And then the entire auditorium explodes in boos for the cheerleaders because I started it, and I'm a cocky little asshole. And then like she's being lifted up in the air, and like she hears the boos, and she literally like jumps off from like being lifted up. Yeah. And like runs to the bathroom like teary-eyed and like cries.
Her own boyfriend.
I know. And I'm like, I'm an asshole.
Like, is that what you thought? Or like
that's exactly what I thought when it happened. I was like, wow, like I'm an asshole. Like because it was one of those moments, and I think this is something that gets missed a lot in modern day generations for the young kids, that when I did something, I literally saw the physical reaction of someone because of my actions.
Right.
Like I can't just do things that are mean and like expect nothing to come out of it. Like it was a lesson for me too, to think like, oh, if I do mean things, people are going to feel bad.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, I don't want to make people feel bad.
So you planned your next boo session. Like, I'm gonna boo everything now.
Yeah. Well, after that, for me, I kind of broke down too, like internally.
Really?
Like I had like a coming of age moment. I'm like, wow, like I don't like what I'm doing right now. Like I didn't enjoy that experience of like making someone else cry or have like someone else feel bad.
Right. So, why do you think you went that direction? Because there's other people that would go the other direction and develop kind of a sense of enjoyment even out of it. So why the difference in path there for that incident?
I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, even though I was like cocky about it, I still liked her. And I mean, it's not like I had a good family life at the time either. So it was all escapisms. Like, so like I felt like I was watching just somebody I liked like not have a good time, and I just didn't enjoy that. I don't know how else to say it, I guess, but that was my thoughts as a teenager.
Okay. Boo. It is still funny. It is still funny.
It is funny. It's hilarious to think about.
It's fucking hilarious.
And then like the whole entire middle school.
Everyone.
And the kicker of it was we had a middle school Disneyland field trip. It got canceled because of the booze against the cheerleaders.
Oh wow! Like, you know what? You guys aren't going to Disneyland. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. We had the class field trip like canceled because like we were little assholes in middle school.
So funny. Wow, that's harsh. No Disneyland.
Yeah. So just funny. And I will admit, like that kind of like really fucked me up, is like I guess going into high school. Because then I thought, by that time I was like 7th grade or 8th grade or whatever, and I was like, I just don't care anymore. Like I became very like I didn't care about emotions. Like I just
like apathetic.
Like, apathetic for sure. Because I felt like I already experienced it. I'm like, I gained these things of like how to talk to girls and how to kiss, and like even had sex young. I didn't care. Like I already did.
Yeah, right. So was the booze at 6th grade still, or was it like
that was 7th grade by the time that happened?
Okay. So by the time you're going into high school, you feel like it's almost like the gifted kids who like passed everything in elementary school and they needed like the harder classes. Is that kind of similar?
It's kind of similar, yeah.
You're like, this isn't anything. I've already been here before,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
So it's like I'm above this. Like I don't care. So just very apathetic. But
Hmm.
also like I transferred to different. I had a great freshman year in high school because I went to a school called Votech,
Hmm.
and at the time it was a vocational school, and I went
Hmm.
there for automotive related activity because I was already into cars. I was already racing. I was like 11, 12 years old. Like that was my thing.
Yeah,
But
right.
just want to take it to the next level.
Hmm.
But I got kicked out of that school. Um, Basically because I stopped going. Like I just didn't care about school anymore. Like I
You
became
stopped
absent.
attending?
I ditched too much and stuff.
Yeah, right.
That they did have requirements, you know, because it was a vocational school for attendance and different things. That I didn't get to go anymore. So then I would have to go back to my regularly stationed school that was close to me or zone school,
Yeah,
and I just hated it. Like it wasn't a good experience. Um, I felt like because for me, I grew up like in more downtown Las Vegas.
yeah.
Grew up in like 28th and Eastern area. But I was raised there. So I would say, compared to our previous conversation of listening to North Korean defector lady of like what poor really is, like yeah,
Yeah,
okay, we had electricity, like,
yeah.
you know,
Right.
but we didn't have a ton of things. We were on the low economic scale by American standards,
Hmm.
and the school I was zoned. But and then my mother, she remarried into, he wasn't a wealthy guy, but he was much better off than like where we were. So he moved to a much higher socioeconomic area,
Area.
and that put me in an area where I would be zoned with basically pretty well-off kids, where the student parking lot was a hell of a lot nicer than the teacher parking lot. Where I was from, there was no student parking.
There wasn't a parking lot. There's
Yeah,
potholes.
you know, it's like because that no kids didn't really get cars as a
Hmm.
teenager,
Right.
but they did in this part of the area. And I was like, oh, that's different. So I
Mm.
felt like I never fit in. And it just made me like really resentful for a lot of people who had a higher socioeconomic status for a long time.
Right.
That led into even my 20s. Like I just
Yeah,
hated
right.
people who had like money or like who like would brag. Like I felt like I just hate this environment.
Hmm.
But then I was still racing, and I realized the necessity of having I'm needing to have money and resources in order to pick my racing. But I just like hated the grind and like hated trying to do anything about it. Like I was pretty
Yeah.
content. It was like, yeah, just give me like an old Game Boy or a 64, and like I don't need anything. Like
You didn't need
whatever.
a heck of a lot, right? Yeah.
I didn't need anything. Um, but that was a quick version of some of my experiences and how I got to leveling up in with the ladies.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually pretty fortunate you got to do it so early. 12 is early for that stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't, my first girlfriend was 18 years old
Mhm.
after high school, basically, right? All my experience happened after high school. So I'm like the late bloomer type dude. And like,
Mhm.
yeah,
So what'd
there's
you do in high
been a,
school?
hmm?
What'd you do in high school? Not
Nothing,
necessarily
nothing.
not lady related, but like were you like in clubs or
No. So I did pretty much all the sports for a long time. And around middle school, I think, something happened during like when I was growing. It's called Sever's disease. It's the something with the Achilles tendon is not growing at the same rate or something like that. It's very painful.
yeah.
Um, and the doctor's like, listen, you can get a surgery for it if you want, or you got to stop playing sports for a while. Otherwise, you're gonna mess stuff up, apparently. Can't remember exactly. So like I didn't want to get surgery because I was kind of scared of it. So I didn't get the surgery for it. So I just kind of stopped playing sports. That's when I kind of got more into games, obviously. I was playing Nintendo 64 and GameCube and all that. And
Mhm.
yeah, computer games came out. So I was always playing computer games, a whole bunch of different stuff. So kind of had a really good group of friends though. Like pretty they were pretty cool. What was cool too is I felt like they all got along with each other as well. Um, so I was very fortunate with that. A group of friends was cool. Always had pretty good friends. But yeah, just basically hanging out with friends or gaming, doing different stuff. Trying to think. Middle school was kind of. I guess I was always involved with something. So like middle school, I actually did cross country. I fucking hate running, but my friends did cross country. I'm like, all right, I'll do it with them. And the only part of it that I did like was the fact that it was a race. So like you got to race against other schools and like you'd figure out your place at the end. That's really the reason, like, oh yeah, I want to see what place I get. Like I always loved like competition like that. Like, I want to know what place I get. So I did cross country for like 2 years of middle school is only 3 years, so I did cross country basically. And then we do that. It's called intramurals. Basically, you just like play sports. It's basically gym class, but after school.
Yeah.
And like you just set up like, is it flag football? Is it like floor hockey? Is it whatever? We'd always do that, and that was a really good time. So I was always doing that interactive stuff like that. High school, I ended up doing paintball though. I did paintball. I do fucking paintball was sweet, man. We pretty hardcore with it. Yeah, got into paintball a lot. That was fun.
The only time I ever did paintball was with a lot of military friends, and they just wrecked me.
Yeah, paintball was, dude. I was into that. I was into that. Fucked up my hips though because of it. Because I was so sedentary because of I didn't really do a whole lot of activity after the Seaver's disease thing. That when I went to paintball, I like jumped the fuck back into that shit. I was like hardcore and like, dude, my hips like from 0 to 100. I still have it today. My hips hurt. It's called snapping band syndrome. It's an inflammation of like your hip joints. Dude, I wish I went a little easier into that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, no talking to girls though. I was always nervous and scared. It's a miracle I fucking got a girlfriend. Like I don't know how that happened. Well, I joined the dance team after I got out of school, and being around basically more women than guys for a consistent lot of period of time, I guess something has to click. So that's kind of how that happened. But I wasn't like popular or anything. Pretty middle of the road.
That's so funny because you know what's funny about that? Like you were in bands around women more than guys. I was in the car world, no girls, all guys.
Yeah, right.
And they have different perspectives on things sometimes. So
yeah, I bet. Yeah, even when I was on the dance team though, I didn't really date anyone, didn't do anything. Like Tui was a cheerleader. She wasn't even involved in the dance world. So I met her through a different program, like a different job actually. I met her through a job. So like even when I was around a whole bunch of women, I was still like not doing anything related to like dating wise with them. Friends, yeah, sure, like cordial and stuff, but still not nothing romantic, say. So I had no idea what the fuck I was doing in terms of with women. And that's a product I can identify the reasons why all the way back. And it stems from just early childhood. Like what happens if you like a girl when you're a young kid? Oh, da da da, kissing in a tree, KISSING. So it's like this pressure, this like monster that's looking at you. You like this girl now? Haha, you like girls? They have cooties. Da, da, da. You're like, no, I don't. No, I don't. So it's like that energetic thing just it carried with me all the way till
wow.
Yeah, till after 18. I mean, when you're older, you start understanding you're like, no, I'm interested in girls I want to date, but like there's some energetic thing in your nervous system that like blocks you from being able to like do it because like I'm undeveloped. That it's not me, it's not 18-year-old me that's there in front of the girl. It's fucking 8-year-old elementary school Sean that's still there. He's not developed. He's stuck there, essentially. So when it comes time to talk to them, it's like it's 8-year-old me. It's not fucking 18-year-old me. That's it's a developmental gap. And you didn't know me at the time, but I would always tell people this. I'd say it a lot. I know I said it a lot. I don't think other people remember, but I would say like, yeah, I feel like I missed developmental stages growing up. Like I would say it all the time to people. You remember me saying that? I say it all the time because like I legitimately fucking did. Like I knew something was off and wrong. Like I physically couldn't do what I was supposed to be able to do or what would have been a natural progression for like just a human being. Like I knew something was fucking off. Like, yeah, I missed fucking developmental stages, man. That was one of them.
You know what's so funny? So that whole like cootie thing reminded me too. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But I remember I have one of my first memories I can ever think of was me being in kindergarten, and my best friend in kindergarten, I don't remember his name, but I remember him for two reasons. Number one, he was the first person I ever saw who held a girl's hand.
Yo, dude, you held her hand.
And it was like, oh, they didn't say they were dating. That wasn't a term that we used. I forget what the term was. He said something like, oh, like we're together or something like that.
Yeah, it's something very innocent, like whatever kindergarten
yeah. But like they
and
would
we held hands
and walk around like the playground.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I want to hold hands with a girl.
Yep.
And I'm like a 6-year-old, whatever it is, 5 years old. The other thing I remember from him, and I have no idea what his actual name is or what his connection, how I'd even reconnect with the guy. But the second thing I remember is his mom had cancer, and like his mom passed away, like
wow, pretty young,
like that year, like in kindergarten or first grade. Because I remember one time, like, you get like, you don't know like what death really is, like as a kid that way. Here's like, oh, like she has cancer, like
you don't have any context. You don't know.
There's no context. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. But like, she said, like, oh, she's gonna die, and I was like, oh, okay. Like you understand what death is. Like you see things die around you, but you don't know how that affects people. That's
right. You don't know, right?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, things die, people die. Like that's just how it goes, right?
Yeah, it's more of like something in like a science book, but not experientially, I'd say.
Yeah, you don't know how it affects people for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, my best friend at the time, like in kindergarten and first grade, his mom died. So those are the two things I remember from even back then. He liked girls before me. That was salty.
That's cool. You picked the right guy to be a friend with. If he was able to hold hands with girls,
Yeah, I remember even back then too, like being mad that like some of the other kids who I thought I was like doing better in school with, I would color in the lines. Okay. I remember being mad because I didn't get gold stars on my paper.
The jealousy. Yeah, that's so funny. Dude, I don't think I ever colored in the lines. I was awful at that. It's so funny. Interesting. Yeah, dude. I mean, I could talk for ages, literally nonstop, days on end about like childhood and the effects it has on how like, dude, it's really fascinating. I don't want to get into it now. It's like too side railing of a conversation, but yeah, dude, early childhood memories, man, fucking wild. And then if you connect the dots from the event then to how it really is connected to like patterns in your adulthood, you're like, what the effing hell? What the hell? Like it is unreal to know that some of the same patterns have been repeating from your early developmental days, because it's like, man, your nervous system when you're an early child is just jacked into the world, man. It's like direct plugged in to like sensory experience and everything. Shit's just like just sucking right in. It's fucking fascinating. And like it learns quick and it learns thoroughly. Like it's just embedded in there. And then you can connect the dots all the way to the adult. You're like, holy fuck, okay, Jesus, I've been doing that since I've been 5 years old. Alrighty.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because all I did was play a lot of games mostly. And many of the games I played affected who I was, for sure.
Me too. Yep.
That's why I had this. That's why I had the thought process like 11-year-old to like level up, like whatever.
Yep. Level up. Yep.
And the next big game I came after that for me was like the Final Fantasy series. I remember playing Final Fantasy 8. That was like my game. And I was like, Squall's the coolest dude in the world. I want to be like Squall. So like that was my parent. Like I learned from these stories of like how to be a human being. From like, and that's what I want to emulate. And like, I still think of myself sometimes like, yep, that's the Squallness.
The Squallness coming out.
And that's part of, I think that was one of the big reasons why I was like, I didn't care. Because like Squall was like, I don't care, like whatever.
Dude, talking about Final Fantasy 8 specifically, I remember, dude, because that game 7 and 8 had a pretty big impact because I was a kid when they came out and I got to play them. Although I sucked at those games and I only got maybe to the second disc on either one of them. But what was so crazy about Final Fantasy 8 Squall specifically and its effect on young males specifically, I think, was one of the first scenes that happened is the ball. And it's at the time you're like, whoa, these graphics are fucking nuts. Everything looks so real. You're like, holy shit, this is crazy. And like he sees Renoa, or I don't know how to say her name.
We gotta bring it up. We gotta bring it up. Let's see.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? The fucking ball scene where they're dancing. The kid, dude, that shit is like, wow, I want to be that dude. Or he danced with her, right?
Like, check this out. We're bringing it up. I got this.
Share the screen.
Coming in. It's coming in.
Oh, this is gonna, what we're doing right now is gonna segue perfectly into the question I actually wanted to ask you about.
Look at these graphics.
Hold on, share the screen. Share the screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing the screen? Oh, hold on.
No.
There
we go. Yeah, dude, these graphics were like, I literally thought these were real people.
I know. I was talking to Bucket, another friend of ours, and he always jokes about it because he's like replaying these games. He never played them as a kid. He's like, dude, people back then must have thought these are the best. I'm like, they weren't. This is the pinnacle of human beings.
This was unreal. Like I felt like I was him, like standing at the corner, right? I want the girl. I want to meet the girl. Like I'm interested.
I know.
Like, oh, he gets to talk to her. What, this guy? Like,
oh my god, yeah, that was it.
Dude, this was everything,
like,
man.
Let's go up to like the actual scene. It's like right here. It's like whisker away. I'm like, oh, women's are supposed to take the dude out. Oh,
yeah, dang. This is crazy. Like, what? This can happen?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I'm him. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel awkward and I don't know how to dance.
Look, she's like showing him, like, look, you do this.
Yeah, it's like, it's like it's a wet dream. So funny.
It's so funny though. This is like what I idolized to be. I'm like, dude,
yeah, me too. Yeah. Yep. This had a very big impact on me as a young kid.
Super.
Because I identified with him. Like there's aspects of him that I identified with so much. And like here I am watching the story of it play out in a different way.
For sure. I think a lot of us did, especially as young men. It's like, if we're just staying in front of these games all day, and I will admit, I do think it was good because these games don't have voice acting. You have to read.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's a bit, you absorb and learn things differently when you read them rather than them being told to you.
Yeah, totally.
But it was just engulfing of like, wow, this is so cool.
Yep. Yeah, man. Dude, I remember being like, wow, like, yeah, just big effect as a young boy.
Yeah.
These stories being told in these events.
Oh yeah.
And it's different because it's a game. So like I'm controlling that motherfucker, you know? So you have a different relation to it.
For sure. For sure.
So funny. So funny. Wow. Nostalgia lane right there.
I know. I still get shivers when I hear the intro for that game.
Dude, yeah, the intro was so good. I think I remember actually resetting the game and watching it twice in a row before I even started it. I don't think I even started the game. I was like, whoa, that was cool. I think I just restarted it and watched it again.
A good choice. Good choice.
That's fucking crazy. Dude. Yeah.
So what's the second question or segue?
Well, I wanted to ask you, because you just had a major nostalgic thing happen to you going to Seattle. And going back into a drift event. So I'm very curious about how that affected you, that whole thing.
Yeah, so this is going to be a potential 3-part story. So part number 1.
It's that large. It's a trilogy, man. We got a trilogy.
Yeah, a little bit of a trilogy. Actually, maybe now I think about it, 4 parts. 4-part story.
Okay, now we're into a book series. We're out of.
This is it.
We didn't get the film deal. It was too much. The producer's like, that's going to cost too much. We can do a book deal.
Yeah. So before I prepare this story, I didn't think about this. I'm kind of being put on the spot here, but let me prepare some content real quick.
Okay.
I have some of this content that will make more sense. But the first chapter I'd like to share, and like why this is important, is my relationship with drifting on its own.
I'm just gonna assume it's all Tokyo Drift, Too Fast, Too Furious. Just
not exactly. So I started drifting at when did I start actually? 2003. Yeah, around 2003.
Okay.
No, when was it? Okay, first year of high school.
How old were you?
Like 13. No, I was 14, I think.
14. Okay.
Because a couple things happened. Number one, so I went to the street races with my stepbrother, and he would take me, and I was like 11 and 12. So go straight is one thing, but even him, he gave me the best advice ever at the time, which was like going fast in a straight line doesn't require any skill. If you actually want to become a better driver, learn how to take the corners fast. That was like a mantra I lived by as a teenager. Right. Because in America, street racing is all about take a fast car and you go fast in a straight line. Like that's what street racing is. You line up, smoke the tires, just go at the street light. But my stepbrother was introducing me to a concept that was different. He was like, no. Take a corner fast. But how do you do that? Like you have to go through the corners fast. How do you gain that skill? Well, that's a different skill set that I would still argue it takes a lot more patience and a lot more talent to do.
That's racing.
That's racing.
It's racing.
And it really rooted itself in this Japanese import scene that became very popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. Because in that time frame, a lot of Japanese sport compact cars became a thing. Such things like a Honda Civic, such things like a Nissan Sentra, or like a Golf GTI. These were like small little cars that had good enough horsepower to get you going and were quick enough to like have some good fun. But even from the sport contact scene has roots in other areas, because the idea of like a fun car for a teenager goes back to like muscle car era. And then there were Japanese versions of those too. Like for example, like the Datsun 240Z or like a Celica, or basically I guess what I'm trying to say is like it got really popular in the 90s and 80s for a couple different reasons, but probably the biggest one is that American cars at the time basically just sucked. Like they were no good, because in the 80s, American manufacturers were hit with a lot of emissions, and like EPA started to become a thing. And specifically in the 90s, basically American manufacturers couldn't catch up as far as performance goes for a small car, because that's not what their interest was. Muscle cars are big, hunky, fast, powerful motors. And all they would do is put this like exhaust on it or like kind of restrict it. And like basically the motors just ran like crap. But what the rest of the world was doing outside of the US is that they were always making smaller engines, because in those countries, fuel was like 10 times more expensive, and there wasn't a need for these big, powerful motors at all. So for them, they were already optimizing like smaller engines. So by the time EPA regulations come up in the 80s and 90s, Europe and Japan were already ahead of the game. America had to catch up. So we were America cars were like in a low point. So Japanese cars were pretty cool. That led to this concept called like JDM-ness. I don't even know. JDM-ness. JDM is an acronym that stands for like Japanese domestic market. Basically anything that comes from Japan. And in the 90s and early 2000s, anything from Japan was pretty badass. Cars, like Japanese food,
DVD players, camcorders, all of it.
All the Japanese stuff was hot. All computer stuff, like even Japanese culture items like swords. Japanese having Japanese on t-shirts or whatever.
Tattoos.
Like it was a cool thing to do. And it fell into the car scene as well. So people started buying Japanese cars. And with the Japanese and how they were racing was through the corners, not in a straight line. That's where the root of this, my brother's mentorship is like, oh, do what the Japanese and Europeans are doing. They take corners fast. They don't go straight line fast. So as an influential 13-year-old or 12-year-old, whoever it was, I got told this and I took it to heart. So I started looking up and watching a lot of Japanese things, specifically anything Japanese car culture related we could get our hands on. There are a lot of Japanese car movies at the time. Things in English are called like Freeway Speedway, or like in Japanese is like a Shuton Expressway. I forget the name in Japanese, but we were like all about these things. And then like Initial D became a thing in the 90s. We were like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. An anime about street racing, dude, this is badass. You hear stories and you meet people like in the streets of like, oh, I went to Japan, like this is what's going on over there. And you're like, whoa, like that sounds so cool. Like, and you can't know for sure because no one had like camcorders weren't as readily available as they are today. Like trust the dude and his experiences, like what it was like, or you had to like wait for a DVD to come out in the store to like get inside footage of what things were like very different time frame. there's no social media either, right? So it's like, whoa, that sounds cool. So you hear about these things, you're like, dang, I want to do that. Drifting was a big one of them. Drifting definitely became popular in Japan in the 80s, became more to be professional sport in the 90s. So we heard about these things. You're like, that sounds like the most JDM thing ever.
Yeah.
So I started to get into that. And this is like 2002-ish. And part of it was like Initial D and like reading other things and hearing about it. So by the time I was ready to get my first car, like 2003, 2004, I already was dead set on what I wanted. I wanted a car that could drift. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. So that leads to sharing some content. So let me share some screens. So this was one of the first vehicles I ever owned. Well, that's actually not my first vehicle I ever owned, but the first driftable car that I ever owned. Actually, I might have a picture of the first vehicle I ever owned ever on here. No, I don't. But it was also an RX-7 here. So this is like a 1989, no, it was 1987 actually, Mazda RX-7. And you can see there's some smoky tires coming to the back. That's me driving. This is like 2006. So I was doing this drifting activity like in the streets, just messing around, doing my thing. But that's what I love to do. And I was all about this. I think I might have one more. Here's a couple other ones. Like, it's having a grand old time. Oh, I thought it might say, I thought it might say the year right here, but it doesn't. But I think it's pretty sure this was like 06 or 07. I think it was 06. It was 06. But this was like the culture I was into. This is what I wanted to do with my life. So by this time, I'm still in high school. And within our high school peers, it was interesting because there was another friend. There was like 8 of us that were like drifters. There was like a lot of other car people, but there was like 8 of us that were specifically like drifting people. And I say that because some of the drifting people, like, you know, like I said, I mentioned, I went to a school with more socioeconomic status than me. So they had much cooler cars or more expensive parts. And I didn't have that. So this was, at the time I bought this car, I think for like $1,500. Mm-hmm. And even back then, that was kind of a lot. You can still get cars for $1,500 today. But this car today, it's like $8,000. And like, I mean, that's what, not 20 years, 17 years or so. So, you know, appreciation. Point is, this is my thing, right? So that's part one of the story. I've been doing this drifting thing for a very long time. Professional drifting series started back in 2005 in America. And I was there at one of the very first US drifting competitions. I went to spectate. I was there from the beginning, before it was ever an officialized thing in America. Wow. I've been there. I know the same people who've been drifting for a long time. This is my game. This is what I like to do. I'm not going to say I was the best driver because more people who had more resources and more people who had like time and energy to like put in this. And I was also a teenager at the time. Like I had like basically a minimum wage job, like trying to like do this stuff in my free time. And it's not cheap. Yeah. So some of the people who are like still drifting today, who I did see at the competition just last weekend in Seattle, are still doing it, but I started back then the same time I did. Wow, that's crazy. At the time, they would have been like in their 20s, so they had a little bit more establishment with their lives. So that's part one of the story. Part two of the story is who I went with. So, chapter 2. I decided I've had one friend, when I moved up here to Portland about a year ago, I had one friend of mine who I knew about. Her name is Betty, but I actually met her like 5 years ago, just like chatting online, and just became good friends. Like, nothing romantic or anything, just a homie, right? Mm-hmm. So I told her eventually I was going to move up here, excited, and then we just hang out, go get food, do whatever. And a couple of weeks ago, she started introducing me to some of her friends, and that's been fun to meet new people and have interactions. One of the friend groups she introduced me to 2 weeks ago, I thought they were great people. She used to work with them. Both of them are doctors. We went floating on the river, which is like a very important thing to do. It's probably, I mean, anywhere with water probably is a thing to do. Not a Vegas
right.
thing to do because, I grew up in a place without water and without trees. And I'm over here, I'm like just baffled. I'm like, look, that's a real tree over there all the time. I'm constantly amazed by the simplest things. So I'm like, floated on the river. That sounds like an amazing experience. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
So we went, and in the course of the conversation, you actually talked to her.
Yeah, I remember that because I called you. Yep.
Yeah. But so I started meeting with these people and just had a great long conversation. I got my degrees in engineering and math. They were both medical doctors. So go-getter type of people. Talking about life, probably hung out for like 8 hours that day. And then we decided to hang out again the next day. But because we were out in the sun all day on basically on our top side, like talking to each other, like chilling in an inner tube over here. We're like, oh, well, we got a tan on the front side, but now our backside is like not as tan. So we should like tan our backside and go to the beach. Like, good idea. We should go to a nude beach. I'm like, sure. I've never been to one. Let's do it. So that became an experience. And I felt like I bonded with people, specifically them, like in a way I probably have very rarely bonded with other human beings. Not because of like the nudity thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Really?
we're just humans, right? Like, but it's just like, I got to spend real quality time with people, and like maybe it's part of it, the nudity thing.
The nudity definitely has an impact on that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they're just like whatever, and I'm just kind of like whatever too.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm not like I'm aroused by it. It's just like
No, but it's kind of brings you back to human nature in a way.
yeah, very humbling
Yeah.
experience. You're like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I guess we all just have dicks and vaginas. I guess that's true.
Wow. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
You forget, like we always wear this clothes and like
exactly. We're all in like
persona.
society. Yeah. Totally. It's a
Yeah.
weird kind of launches you out for a second.
Yeah, so I would say it was a very positive experience,
Totally.
but I got a little traumatized in a different way because I realized that some of their experiences were very positive in their lives and how they got to where they are. And I realized I was missing a lot of things in my life, or I felt like I was missing a lot of things in my life, in my upbringing. Things like not really having like a father figure around that I felt connected with, not feeling like I was had meaningful relationships with family members, like experiences that I felt like I missed out on, but I was witnessing through them that they were able to share and be vulnerable with, say like, yep, I went through this or that experience. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes me sad that I didn't have that experience. And kind of to your point, the childhood traumas like do come out like in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a whole thing I had to wrestle with.
Yeah, wow.
But after, in one of the conversation pieces I had with them was like, hey, there's actually a drift event at the end of the month. Would you like to go? So I invited them out to go to the drift event with me.
Okay, cool.
So that was like, I guess part of I guess that was part of why I wanted to say chapter 2 is that like who I went with, like how it all came to be.
Gotcha.
To which I would say like going with them, I think was a great experience because I got to share part of my world, something they've never seen, like to someone else. And like, I love it. I find that
cool.
One thing I enjoy probably more than almost, I would say it's core to my humanness is I love teaching. I love like exposing people to some of my knowledge sets and sharing with it. Like I love it. But at the same token, I love learning too. So for me, curiosity and like sharing experiences is like a big part of what I love to do as an experience for sure. Chapter 3. The other person I went with. Yeah. The other person I went with, she is a lady who moved to Seattle, but I met her because she was in the same club as us in university. And she's actually, the club was called the Society of Women Engineers, or SWE for short. And that is actually the reason why I got the job I currently have, because I went to this conference, talked to someone at this conference that connected me and said like, wow, you should work for us. And I'm like, really? Thank you. And that's what landed me a job.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. So she was actually the president of the SWE UNLV chapter. So the chapter for our university. And I put myself out there and made experiences like I want to do this. Not just that conference, I actually went to a bunch of different conferences in college as kind of a means, kind of going back to that level up thing I mentioned before, where it's like I know I want to get better at interviews, how to conduct like resume and talk and networking, business speak, business culture. Don't know exactly how it works. Let me expose myself by getting myself out there front and center and go to as many conferences as I can to meet and greet these people.
Right.
Same mindset of like, just got to level up. Just got to do it. So I went to like 4 national conferences that year, and 3 was one of them.
Yeah, I remember you going to all of them.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other person I met with, she moved to Seattle for her job, and then we met up and just hung out. And it was just another part of experience. I guess I got to share something that she's never seen before, and I got to give in-depth analysis while it's all happening live. So that all leads to the 4th and final chapter, was like what it was like actually in the experience for me.
Yeah.
So
at the drift event.
Yeah. Small preface. I'm gonna share some
Tokyo
more
Drift.
I'm gonna share content one more time here. So I showed before of like what it was like for me in the drifting world, how I started. As I mentioned, like this went on for a while. Here I was being sponsored to drive this vehicle. Other vehicles, I would drive my friends' cars because they respected my skill enough to drive things. I crashed. Like, you repair things, you break cars down, you go on like trips. Look, we all have the same car here.
That's so funny.
You built a community with people who had similar vehicles. Like,
it's
a storyline.
The
like,
RX-7 guys.
Yeah, it really is. Like, this was just one random night when we were like out street drifting. Like, there's me hanging out, like this old car I had. Like, it's a decade-long story of like, here's me, like, oh, let me rebuild my motor. Like, I blew it up. Then I got this. Then I got kicked out of my home, and then I bought this car for $500, and I started drifting that. And everyone was mind blown that I was drifting this like $500 car and like actually doing good with it. Everyone wanted to ride in that thing. It was just like wild. Oh, here's a picture of this car. Yeah, so here it is. This is the first car I ever got. I was like 15, and I had this. Here's other like road trips with friends. Like, you're driving a Porsche. That was a fun experience. Like, so there's a whole storyline gets created here, right? Of like, you have an intimate relationship with this culture and like what it means to you. Because at the end of the day, I just wanted to drive. Like, I wanted to do this for a lifetime. So this is me in like 2011. Like, this is what I felt like I was made to do.
On the road.
So 2011 happened, and I stopped there for a good reason, because I don't think there's a picture here. Yeah, I don't see one. But this is actually very similar to the timing of when I had my first big accident that ended up putting me in a coma. And that was a wake-up call. This is 2011. And that coma was a wake-up call for me to say, like, and I already knew, like, there were hints of it, like, I'm not going to be able to make it. Like, I don't have the funds to, like, travel and do this. It's just really hard to, like, constantly live off top ramen and, like, try to, like, be human.
Right.
Thing. I'm not having any fun with my life. My 20s were wasted because, like, I tried to chase the dream. Like, I didn't get to go out clubs or have experiences or travel or anything. I grinded away trying to make this thing a reality. So there were hints. Like, I was already getting like a little tired about like a 22-year-old, 23-year-old. Like, man, like, do I really want this? Yeah, I keep doing it. All my friends are motivating me to keep going. Then I hit the wall. Right. Literally,
yeah.
I knocked into a coma. That took me out. And it was one of the starting points to say, like, I should go back to school.
Wow.
So that moment, and it was really rough because my memory was like really bad. Like, it considerably altered how I learn and how I am as a human. My memory just still to this day is not good.
Yeah.
It hit my head really hard and I got knocked out. And that was the catalyst to go back to school. But because I didn't really do well in high school, I had to start from like the lowest denominator. Like, literally I couldn't do algebra. I had no English like background. I mean, like written, like you take the class, like how to write.
Yeah, right. Like the technical aspects of it.
Speak it, obviously, but like whatever. So I started from the bottom. Like I went to community college, and basically, I started another job. I had a night job. I picked up a Cirque du Soleil. And the reason I got that job because the director of entertainment at the time was a car person who I knew.
Yeah, the car guy.
Community. And he just got me a job. There was no interview. He was like, "Oh, you need a job, Aaron? Come in Tuesday." Like nothing. It's like, "All right, thanks, dude."
That's awesome.
And so I started working for the casino and working for Cirque du Soleil.
Yep.
And I was a night job, so I'll go to school in the mornings and then be able to take classes. Or I'm sorry, go to school in the mornings and go to work at night. And they fed me too. They have like food there, and I was like,
yeah, the cafeteria. It blew me away too that existed when I worked for the casino too.
Yeah,
like what?
Dang. But it was funny because maybe you had this experience too. But like working for the casinos, I'm not saying it was like the most glamorous job in the world, but a lot of people I interact with on a daily basis were like very pessimistic about it. Like, and I'm not saying like I kind of want to say ungrateful. Like they kind of expect like, oh, you should feed us. Like, oh, of course, this is standard. I was just amazed that I got fed, and they're over here like, yeah, like bitch, give me all the fucking food. You should.
On the same boat of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird experience. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
A lot of Vegas.
I ate there twice. I'd do the lunch, and then I'd make sure I ate it. I'd go back down again when I left to get food again.
That's what I would do too. Because I had food like at home, and like broke kid, like I don't got anything.
Yep, exactly.
Go back to school. So like now my time's even being more eaten up.
Yep.
So at the same time, like in my early 20s, I was grinding away on this car thing, and I had a deep conversation with many of my friends and with myself to say, like, I think I have to give up this dream. I have to give up the dream to chase something more stable in my life. Like the humanness of it, of like, I'm not invincible, and I don't really want to take the chance to see if I will make it. So I didn't. I like gave up. And it's something you always kind of regret, I think. Like, like, oh, should I have chased that more? Like, what if I did make it? Like, the what ifs will drive you nuts.
Yeah.
But I had to make a choice to say, like, no. And I did. I was like, no, we're going to go back to school. And we're going to try to have a more stable life. So that was like a very controversial time for me, and like very upsetting truth that I came to. It's like, I'm just an average dude. I'm not famous racing driver.
Yeah, not Mr. Schumacher, German crazy racer. Yeah.
And I can't do it. Like, and that was one of the first times in my life when I was like, probably the only time in my life, probably still to this day, is like, I have to give up. I can't do it. So that was like a very, that ruined me emotionally too for a long time.
Yeah, totally.
So then I went back to school, and I was like, well, I'm gonna pull my energy here and do what I can. Eventually grinded out community college, got my associate's degree. Supposed to take you 2 years, took me like 4 years to get that thing. And then I went back to, I found I liked school a lot. I had an opportunity. There was a moment where I could have just stopped with my associates and took a job that would make me, $65K a year, which is good money. It's like more than the average US male person, I think.
Yeah, it is.
But I didn't want to stop. I found myself wanting more. We get more educated so I can get something better further down. So I took another chance, holding off on this car dream even more to pursue university education. And I remember the day one of me going to university, because I was like, whoa, this is where smart people go. And like, it was such a different experience than the community college, because there was campus life. Like, there's no campus life at a community college. You just like take your classes and like kind of leave. Like, there isn't like dorms and and like clubs and stuff.
Yeah, and like facilities and crazy stuff. Like,
it's there for you to take the class and then move on with your life. But university is different, right? And it's like, it is designed for you to kind of like, on some level, depends on the fraternity, of course, but like for us at UNLV in Vegas, it has a decent enough setup. So you can like just stay around campus and like not leave the area. I think most college towns are like that. And here I am surrounded by being a 26-year-old-ish, surrounded by like 18, 19-year-olds who are like brilliant all the time. And you have that imposter syndrome, like, oh, they're smarter than me. Like, what am I doing? Like, I should just do my car stuff still. Like, that was a big struggle the whole time. Like, I just kept thinking I would take pictures like every week and be like, of my car and be like, one day soon, it's coming back, one day. And I could go on my feed and probably like find all the pictures like I would take of just this thing like over the years. Like, that's what motivated me to go through school and like keep it going.
Right.
So I just have this like intimate relationship with this idea of like being good at driving. Eventually, I got early in my university, actually, no, even as community college, that dream came true per se, because I got a job as a racing instructor. Now I get to race in quotes, I'll put, for a living.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really race them. Like, I was an instructor, I was to teach people how to drive cars fast. But racing inherently to me means you're racing against competitors, trying to win a race. We'll figure. Yeah. And we weren't really doing that. It was an experience. But I got to drive all the fanciest, coolest cars in the world. Cars. Yeah, all Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, like every day. That was my job. And I probably got hit with something along the lines of, you have the coolest job in the world 10 times a day.
Yeah, right, all the time.
But to me, I was still like a struggling kid going to school.
Yep.
I did have a cool job. It was fun, but it wasn't as glamorous as everyone might think. And that's a whole other story. Right. But it was
a different story. And it's not like you're racing in the competition where it's like that thing that grips you, you know? It's like, it's different. I totally get it.
Yeah. So I did that and grinded out. This is also by the time when we about met. So it's probably 2014, 2015-ish. I don't exactly remember the year, but
yeah, one of those years, yeah.
Somewhere around there. So I'm just grinding away, doing my thing in school, working at the casino, or I'm sorry, not working at the casino, at the racetrack. Eventually I decided that I'm gonna live on campus and try to have that experience, trying to emulate something I missed, because I mentioned before, like I always felt like I missed an experience because I didn't have my 20s.
Yeah, right.
One of the reasons why I wanted to is like, let me try if this would be the same. It wasn't, like, or at least maybe college isn't nearly as hyped up as it used to be, like in the movies or something.
Yeah, right.
Not to say I had a bad time in college, but I didn't have a fun time. I was working very hard. Like, it was very stressful and like it wasn't fun. But I played games where I could. That was our thing. But the whole time, I'm really thinking about driving again. This whole time, it took me 6 years to get a bachelor's degree too. So total time, basically from the 4 years of community college, the 6 years of university, I spent 10 years. This dream of mine I've been holding on to race cars has been on hold for 10 years at least. And I still hold on to my main vehicle for drifting this entire time, through the grace of friends, because they wouldn't allow me to sell it. All those community members I showed you before, like all the same cars, like I still chat with these people. They're still my friends. And they wouldn't allow me to sell the vehicle. They refused. So now, with more of an emotional impact of going into this whole drifting event that I went to last weekend, it was just a slew of emotions of, number one, I get to share something with people who are my friends that they've never seen before. So the teaching part of it is like very welcoming and like I love it. Number two, I get to see the people who are drifting with me 12 years ago, 15 years ago, still doing drifting today and still doing their grind at it. And I think to myself, could have been me.
Yeah, right. Could have been you. Yep.
But I didn't, and I chose a different path. But then I guess the third part of that is that I try to be grateful for what I have. Like, my journey, I think, is least talking to a lot of different people, probably a lot different than what most people go through.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just try to accept it for what it is and just be very happy with what I got. I have my health. I could still go back to drifting if I chose to. And just trying to live more in the moment. So those are like the three big emotions that were rushing through me as I went through this experience last weekend.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like when you see the people that you've drifted with in the past before, still on the grind, what was your emotional experience around that? Was it validating? Like, oh, you know what? I did choose right. I'm glad I chose that path. Or was it something else?
Hmm. I guess I don't think of it as I chose right or wrong. Like I chose something. And I feel happy that I chose something rather than nothing.
Well, that's what I mean for your experience, because not me to judge if one path
Yeah,
was better for another person than another, but for you, where you're like, oh, I did good for me, or is it conflicting in some way?
it's conflicting, but like I guess I try not to dwell too into it because I realize me thinking about the past is never a good road to go down. I can't change anything. At the time I made a decision and that's what I thought was the decision to make. So now when I reflect on it and looking at this at the same people, I'm like, that's the life they chose. And this is the life I chose. So I try not to think of it as like better or worse, but like just it is what it is. And I know fundamentally if I want to, I could. And that's, trust me, something I still battle
Yeah, right.
every week with myself. Like, fuck, do I really want this? Do I really want to do this? Like, there's no free lunch. You have to put in the work to get things done. And those
Yeah.
people who are on their track still today that I met, 15 years ago, put the work in to get to where they are. It's a risk. It's no different than like a musician or an actor. Like you're going to take a risk to try to move to Hollywood and chase that dream.
Yeah, right.
As much
Yep.
success stories you hear for every Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever,
There's a million
or every
non.
Justin Bieber, there's a million who didn't.
Yep.
And I feel very happy for the skill set that I learned. Actually, I would say more than anything else. Like I got to experience something that very few people got to experience at a time when it was still ours, I guess you could say. This is also where the reason why I like Spanish, because it still feels like
it's very
ours.
grassroots,
Very grassroots. And back then it was all grassroots. There was no big corporate sponsors, there was no money, it was just a couple of dudes being idiots. Like on a racetrack trying to emulate something we've seen in Japanese DVDs or VHSs. I have
Yeah,
VHSs.
right. VHSs, yeah.
Yeah. And like now, I'm not saying it's all corporate now, but I mean like there's big sponsors.
Yeah, what's the event like now?
Oh, it's nuts. Big sponsors, live reporters, like cameras everywhere, drones everywhere, like watching the things, like the judging and like how it all changed is like so different, like more advanced. Like the cars are absurdly, they went to the nth degree. Like they used to be just kind of normal street cars. Now they're just strictly built machines that have $500,000 worth of development into them to even like compete.
Jeez.
The top cars have I would say over $1 million worth of investment in the team to like make them compete in drifting.
Holy cow. Must have been a fun event though.
Yeah, it was good times.
How did the people that you took with respond to it?
They say they enjoyed it. And I always feel like this pressure because I'm like, oh, this is something like I really like. I want to make sure that they like it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I'm gonna show you the coolest shit in the world. Do you like it? Do you like it?
Yeah. They were happy. I think they said they enjoyed it. So, and then afterwards, I met up one of the friends I went to university with. As I mentioned, we went out to got some drinks, met some of her more friends. She invited me to her boyfriend's home and like just had a good time.
Cool,
I think that's when I messaged you. I was like, yo, I'm out here.
Yeah, in Seattle. I'm like, what's he doing in Seattle?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That'd be fun.
But yeah, I tried to just have a good time with it. I try not to think too deeply on like the what ifs because I know it's just not a good path for me to go down.
Yeah, be living in the past, really. I don't think that's good for anyone. Like you said, live in the moment. This is what you have is now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and trust yourself too that you're able to create great experiences moving forward now, you know?
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to do. Like, not even just like regular experiences, but I mean, like other things, like simple things. Like you mentioned this when we started here, of like, oh, for your birthday yesterday, you're like, oh, you didn't do anything. Like, oh, that's a whole other thing of like, why didn't you do anything?
Why didn't I do
And
anything? Why
you're
didn't
like,
I have
well,
that?
we didn't create this experience. You didn't put in the energy to like make things happen. You're like kind of regret it in some level. And it's like, oh, I wish I
Yeah,
would.
I don't regret any of it, but it does make me think. Right? It makes me think what I'm doing. What can I do? What do I
Mhm.
value? What do I need to shift and change to be more in alignment with those values and to have the experiences that I'd want to have?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah.
Did
So
you get
that's yeah.
to did you get to step in a car at all out there or no? I mean, I guess that'd be hard. I guess that wouldn't be a thing.
I didn't know. I didn't step in any vehicles. I showed them because you can go to the cars and like show them what they're like. Because that was part
Oh,
of the
that's
experience.
cool.
Yeah. So I was like, come here, guys. I'm gonna show you
Oh,
like
you
what
got
the
to get up close to him?
yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed that. That would have been sweet.
That was yeah. Because I get enjoyment like showing them like look, they look like regular cars, but look, they're
But
not. And then
look at
like
this.
it's a whole
Yeah,
thing.
right. It's like a magic trick. That would have been cool. I would have enjoyed you showing me that. That would have been sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So wow, that's like a super blast from the past. Tonight. When's the last time you went to an event like that?
So funny. The last pro drift event I went to was probably 2013 or so.
Wow. 8 years, man.
Yeah, and
7 or 8
prior to
years.
that, the Pro Series used to come to Vegas every year.
Mm.
They stopped in like I think 2015, I think,
Huh.
because basically the Las Vegas Motor Speedway decided they wanted to charge more, and the event was like, we're just not going to Vegas. Like,
Yeah.
bye,
Go fuck yourself. Yeah. Yep.
basically.
Yeah.
They stopped going to Vegas, but I was there again from
Stupid
the beginning,
Vegas.
and I
Yeah.
remember like, man, like
It's the
start like
same event. It's like the same
same event,
event.
same
Oh,
event.
that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy, crazy.
Yeah,
Wow. That'd be like being at the first Super Bowl before people even knew football. And
exactly,
then being like,
exactly.
everyone's all about the Super Bowl now, but it's like, yo, I was there. I was there when it was pretty
Exactly.
cool.
It feels like it was like I was there at Woodstock, like
Yeah, right. It's a Woodstock thing. Yeah.
for sure,
That's
for
funny.
sure. But man, I it reminded me too. I remember my core group of friends at the time. We were all like street racers and whatever. We were watching some of the pro drifting that year, one of the first years I was there, and I was already telling my friends, I was like, dude, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, how can I do this? How can I travel? And like, get there? They believed in me. They believed I had the skills to do it, but I didn't have the funds to do it.
Yeah, right.
And then we went to the first drift event, and like I'm helping some of the people like do their thing, and like they have this thing called the opening ceremony where they introduce all the drivers for like the top 16 who made it in, and they do a little burnout. They do like, oh, this is a race car driver, and then crowd goes,
Yeah,
woo.
this is Ronald McGee or
Yeah,
whatever his name is. Yeah.
and they do a burnout, and like and really all the top 16 people, they're all like kind of friends too, so like they're just having fun. And then we're watching this. My friend goes to me like, Aaron, you fucking telling me you don't want to be on that track right now doing that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. They're like, that's what I thought. Go work on your car. And then it's like, it was like motivating, but sometimes it can get toxic, right? Because like, when do you stop? When do you know like you're not going to be the next Leonardo DiCaprio?
Right, right,
Like, how do you
right,
know?
right. And you're not listening to your own intuition necessarily, your own self of like what path might be where you actually need to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, especially because you fucking love it. It gets really
yeah.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
It gets really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a whole thing. So yeah, that's my experience with that, I guess.
Yeah,
And
it's
now
pretty
I
wild.
always looking through like old photos again. I'm like, yep, like drifting was a thing.
That was the thing. Yeah, I feel that way with some of the dance world stuff I did
I
in the
bet, yeah.
back, like the competitions and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I got pretty fortunate. I'm never bothered by that. I think I might have been the first year I left it, but hearing your story or I know of some other people too. I think I got very fortunate in terms of it didn't bother me to leave it for some reason. Not quite sure why. Probably because I always am excited about whatever I'm doing next. So I'm never like, oh my, oh yeah, but I got this thing. So like, I don't know. But yeah, I can fuck with you. I remember it fucked with me for like a year or two when I
Mm.
left it.
Yeah, that's partly why there's a connection here between how we met, which is the Smash world
Yeah.
and like gaming world and like the car thing. So I knew even as like a 15-year-old that like there was a connection between like reaction speed and like driving. Like you gotta like hand-eye coordination, gotta be great. So the connection I found early on was like, well, I can't drive all the time. But what else could I do to like keep my reaction speed up?
Keep the speeds up. Yeah. Smash. Dude, Smash
Well,
is a
not
great
Smash,
one.
big games.
Yeah.
Smash
Oh,
was a big
totally.
part of it. Yeah. So even back then, in the one of the original founders of Vegas Smash in like 2003, was a guy named Vico,
Mm-hmm.
and I was part of that crew, originally founding Vegas
That's
Smash.
so fucking crazy.
Yeah, we would
Ground
go
floor
to.
of Drift World, ground floor of Vegas.
It's funny.
Smash.
We call them Smash Fest now. We didn't call them Smash Fest back then, but that's what they were.
Yeah, right. What'd you call them?
We're just like
Hey, you want to come over?
I
Yeah.
don't even know what the name was. We were just like, oh, we're just gonna hang out, like
Yeah, right.
play games and play Smash. And then even back then, like I get so nerded out like watching the documentaries because like I was there, like I was talking to these people, like we were there, like live, like it was us, like that's our thing, like
Yeah, right,
you know.
right.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's so
man,
wild.
we were there, like yeah, it was. I loved it. I loved it.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like that was the thing. So when Smash 4 came out, I was like, I'm just gonna play this again competitively because I already know I'm good at Smash. And then I got reconnected with the community, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I've known Z, who is a mutual friend of ours in the Smash community. Him and my brother were in the same class, so
Yeah, that's
I've
crazy.
known that guy for like 20 years.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. All the connected
It's
points.
wild, like the connections, like just funny, like what all comes together full circle.
Totally. And coming full circle with this podcast, I think that's a good point to wrap it up, actually. Yeah, man, learned a lot about your history on this one. This is like a whole Aaron story time book, chapter by chapter, literally. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.